Hi, I'm Anna Rose, and I'm here doing an interview for the top most searched questions about either me or my movie. So let's get started. Okay, what is the movie Eternal Revenge? Okay, so this movie is basically like a thriller and horror hybrid, and there's three main characters. There's Valerie, there's Eli, and there's Bryce. This movie explores, like, it goes through Valerie and Eli mostly, but in the beginning, Valerie and Bryce are like dating together, but Eli is Valerie's ex. So basically, this movie just goes through the different perspectives of each of the characters, mainly Valerie and Eli, and why they do what they do. And it also explains like different struggles that teenagers have, especially mental struggles. And it also explains, like, when you watch the movie further, it also like tells us, like the audience, that Valerie also isn't that innocent. Okay, the next question. What are the director's favorite colors? Okay, mine's pink, I think. Yeah, pink or blue for sure. And then my co-star, well, not my co-star, but my co-director, Kylie, her favorite color is purple. Okay, how does Eternal Revenge represent social groups? Well, okay, Eternal Revenge, as I said before, is mainly like teenagers. So that's the main social group that it's targeted to. And it kind of it's similar to, kind of like, you can think of it as Mean Girls. Like, there's going to be cliques in high school, so there's different groups of that. And it also represents like relationships, like teenage relationships and love. It also represents the adult aspect in a way of representing like violence and murder and mental health, really, and like psychopathic and being a sociopath and like being a psychopath. I chose this because I always wanted to do a thriller or horror movie for sure. And I really like the hybrid. I like both of those aspects. And I chose it because I personally haven't really seen a lot of teenage movies that depicted both like teenage relationships and ideals and ways of going, but also with the struggles of mental health and the ways of coping. Because this movie also, like, when you further watch it, it would explain why Valerie and Eli do what they do, and like their struggles mentally along with their family struggles, and why, and like how what they've done has affected their families, and how their families have affected them too. Okay, next question. Does Eternal Revenge represent social issues? Yes, for sure. Yeah. As I said, teenage love, I guess, but not necessarily that aspect. The aspect of stalker, like, because Eli's basically a stalker in the beginning. He's trying to get Valerie back from Bryce because they were dating and they broke up. And then she started dating Bryce, but he's trying to get her back. So he, like, in the beginning of our final project, like our intro, you can see the stalker board, and like with pictures of both Valerie and Eli himself, and then also pictures of Valerie and Bryce together. So you can see that, and that also kind of correlates to like domestic abuse and all of that. And then also our movie would further represent like mental health struggles, beside further than just our introduction. So that would be like social issues that would be like represented. How did Eternal Revenge challenge the conventions of media? Well, I would say the only necessary like challenge of media that we would have done would be typically chases or murders like murders would be happening in like darker lighting, and we chose to do it in the sunlight due to just it looking good on camera, really. But it was also over like overcast and cool tones, so it wasn't necessarily bright and sunny, so it still had that like ominous type of feel to it. um Casting, I mean, I think I wanted it to be teenagers, like at least the younger looking people, and we casted teenagers because those are teenage characters, so it wasn't like such a big deal with that. Props, we would definitely follow along with that, like fake blood and axe. That definitely goes along with thriller and horror. The sound, we typically did ominous music besides the contrapuntal sound that we had, like towards the ending of our introduction, where Valerie was playing while the murder and like killing was happening, which me and my partner found that like really fun, and I think that was a good way to use the technical aspect of thriller and media. Because it's contrapuntal. You usually I don't think you typically would see something happy and giddy while someone was getting murdered. Um, Camera work, we definitely, I incorporated a lot of like tracking shots and fast paced like straight cuts, which are typically seen in thrillers to enunciate suspense and conflict. So I definitely did that. Um, in our storyboards, you can see like, oh, they're up there. You can see how I had many different camera shots and angles set up with different lighting to enunciate the conflict, especially because tracking shots, in my opinion, they're one of my favorites to do because they not only are fun to do, but they also, it feels like you bring in the audience while you are making the movie and like producing the movie, because the final product, especially like for example if someone was running, then it's like you're following the character. It's like you're the point of view of the murderer. And like in our movie, it feels like you are chasing them, and it feels like, and it generalizes that to the audience. Basically, what we wanted to showcase in our introduction was the idea that there's conflicts with teenagers and love stories and domestic violence issues and abuse and stalkering, that's not a word. But, and later in our movie, we would definitely explore further mental struggles and issues that our characters would have. So that's all. Bye.